mean town, and even meaner streets. When Brooklyn bites down, you're in for a treat. Father figure must be the cause. He should be happy now. Years of work have made this town what he wants it to always be when Brooklyn sucks. Yeah.
Hello and welcome to Indie Enigma, the podcast where we delve into the mystique of artistry, evolution, and the independent spirit that drives some of the most compelling musicians of our time. From iconic legends to today's rising stars, we explore what it means to be an enigma in the world of music. Today's episode is a deep dive into the ever-fascinating question, what makes an artist truly enigmatic? It's not just about their music, it's the way they shape-shift, evolve, and continually surprise us. And there's no better place to start than with the unparalleled David Bowie. From the alien glam rock persona of Ziggy Stardust to the introspective yet sophisticated artistry of albums like Reality and The Next Day, Bowie was a master of reinvention. He didn't just keep up with the times, he defined them, while always keeping a part of himself elusive, unknowable. But the Bowie influence isn't just a relic of the past, it's alive in the artists of today. Take, for example, the extraordinary Holly Humberstone. This young British singer-songwriter is carving out a space in the music world with her raw vulnerability and haunting melodies, blending confessional lyricism with an indie pop sensibility. Much like Bowie in his early years, Holly crafts a narrative that feels personal yet universal, intimate yet mysterious. With every release, she's not just making music, she's building a world her listeners want to step into. So, how does the enigmatic artist continue to captivate us across decades and genres? Is it their ability to reflect our own stories back at us while staying just out of reach? Their courage to change when the world expects them to stay the same? Or maybe, it's the boldness of showing us truths we didn't know we were ready to hear. In this episode, we'll explore the parallels between the groundbreaking Bowie transformations and the rising stars, like Holly Humberstone, who are redefining what it means to be an artist today. Together, we'll celebrate the beautiful tension between authenticity and mystery that keeps us coming back for more. So, sit back, let the music carry you, and join me as we unravel the artistry, the mystery, and the evolution of the enigmatic. This is Indie Enigma.
Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. And today we're going to be looking at something pretty fascinating. This quality that you often find in these really captivating artists.
Definitely.
Enigma, we were talking about that that aura of mystery, that certain something just
I know what you mean.
makes them endlessly
Keeps you coming back
intriguing.
for more.
Right.
Yeah.
And to illustrate this a little bit better, we're going to be taking a look at two artists from different eras who both kind of embody this in their own unique ways.
Okay.
We've got the legendary David Bowie
Of course.
and the up-and-coming indie darling,
I'm excited for this one.
Holly Humberstone.
Yes.
So when we talk about enigma in artists,
Yeah.
what is it about this quality that makes it so?
Well, I think it's not just about being aloof. or intentionally like obscuring who they are.
Right.
It's more about this ability to constantly evolve, surprise their audience.
Yeah, keep you guessing.
Yeah, and kind of make us question our own preconceived notions about them.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
it often goes hand in hand with that indie spirit.
Right.
You know, that drive to create art on their own terms.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you think about artists who embody Enigma, David Bowie
Yeah.
is practically the poster child for it. Talk about a transformation.
Yeah.
This guy went from a kid in the suburbs of London to this global icon
Yeah.
who reinvented himself constantly.
Constantly.
And it wasn't just the music, right?
I know.
He created these larger-than-life personas, like
Right.
Ziggy Stardust,
Yeah.
that blurred the lines between performance
Of course.
and his own identity. So
Yeah. I mean,
it's interesting to think about, like, the timing of his rise to fame as well, the 1970s.
Yeah.
What was going on culturally at that time?
I think that
That kind of made him...
Bowie's rise
Yeah.
in the 70s was perfectly timed, I think.
Right.
You know, the counterculture movement was starting to fade,
Right.
and there was this kind of sense of disillusionment
Interesting.
in the air. And his music,
Yeah.
especially albums like Diamond Dogs and Young Americans, they tapped into that feeling of uncertainty and change.
Okay.
And his constantly shifting persona
Yeah.
added another layer
Right.
to that feeling of a world in flux.
Yeah. I mean, musically, his evolution
Oh, absolutely.
was mind-blowing.
Yeah,
This guy seamlessly moved through
I know.
genres.
Yeah.
I mean,
Folk art, rock glam, soul, heavy metal, even disco.
yeah, he did it all. And each shift brought a new
Right.
facet of his persona
Yeah.
to the forefront and just kept everyone guessing. Do you think that was a deliberate strategy, or was he just...
I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
I think it was a combination of both. Okay, he was incredibly deliberate in crafting his image,
Right.
but he was also a genuine artist
Right.
who followed his muse wherever it led him. And, you know, this brings us to another
Yeah.
key aspect of Bowie's Enigma,
Okay.
the collaborations.
Yeah.
Like working with artists like
Right.
Brian Eno, Mick Ronson, Carlos Elamar, Nile Rodgers.
Yeah. Huge name.
I mean, he didn't just create music with these people.
Right.
He pushed boundaries
Right.
and created something truly unique
Yeah.
each time.
And that's where that indie spirit
Yeah,
really shines through.
that's right.
He was always in control.
Yeah.
Shaping the sound and the vision,
Mhm.
even when he was collaborating.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And he ended up influencing
Yeah.
generations of musicians, right? Especially those
Yeah.
in the techno rock scene
Yeah,
who were inspired by albums.
of
Like
course.
Low Heroes Lodger.
For sure.
Yeah. So
But it's interesting, too, because,
we can't forget about
yeah,
the more commercially successful side of Bowie, like the massive hit Let's Dance.
right, exactly.
Like,
yeah.
how do you think he managed
Yeah,
to balance that mainstream success with his more experimental work? And more importantly, did it affect
right.
his enigmatic image?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because
Yeah.
even when he was topping the charts,
Right.
there was still that element of unpredictability about him.
Yeah.
I remember reading about the
Mhm.
Bowie bonds,
Oh, yeah.
this incredibly innovative financial move
Really interesting.
that essentially allowed him to profit from his own future royalties.
Wild.
That seemed like such a Bowie thing to do.
Right.
Even his finances were unconventional.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's a perfect example of how Bowie's unconventional approach extended beyond his music.
Right.
It speaks to a larger pattern
Mm-hmm.
of defying expectations
Yeah.
and refusing to be categorized,
Right.
which is such a key element of the indie spirit.
Absolutely.
But it's also a vital part
Mhm.
of cultivating that aura of Enigma.
So we've got this incredible legacy
It's true.
of music,
Yeah.
personas, collaborations, and even financial innovation.
Mhm.
But what ties it all together is that Bowie was just so damn enigmatic.
He kept everyone guessing.
And that's what keeps us fascinated all these years later.
Absolutely. And speaking of artists who keep us guessing,
Yeah.
let's jump forward a few decades
Okay.
and talk about
Right.
Holly Humberstone.
Holly Humberstone.
She's an artist
Yeah.
who's making waves right now.
She is. And I think she embodies that same enigmatic spirit,
Yeah.
particularly in the context of the indie music scene.
Yeah, it feels like she's navigating that space
Uh-huh.
between staying true to her indie roots and dealing with the pressures
Right.
of potential mainstream success. And what struck me was how she seems to be
Right.
really aware of those pressures
Yeah.
and actively choosing a different path.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
One example that really stood out to me
Yeah.
was her experience touring with Olivia Rodrigo.
Right.
It seemed like a real eye-opener for her,
Yeah.
realizing
Yeah.
the intense demands come with that level of pop stardom. And she talked about feeling overwhelmed by the whole machine of it all.
Yeah.
And it made her question
Right.
whether that was the kind of artist he wanted to be.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of courage to
Right.
walk away from something
Yeah.
that could potentially make you a huge star,
It's true.
especially in today's music industry, where there's so much pressure
Oh,
to
yeah.
chase trends and go viral.
It's all about the algorithm.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's even more impressive
Yeah.
considering she had opportunities to lean into that pop machine.
She did.
She did some writing sessions
Uh-huh.
in LA
Right.
and felt really uncomfortable
I
being
love-
pushed to create
Yeah.
these generic bangers.
It just didn't feel authentic to her.
It didn't feel real.
No.
And that makes me think about
Right.
how she describes herself,
Okay.
divided
Yeah.
between introverted and extroverted sides.
Right.
It must be really tough
It is.
to reconcile that inner conflict
Yeah.
when you're being pulled
Right.
in so many directions
By the industry.
by the music industry.
Absolutely. That duality is fascinating.
Yeah.
And I think it feeds into her enigmatic quality. It's like she's constantly exploring the different facets of her personality,
Right.
both in her music and in how she presents herself to the world.
And you definitely hear that in her music.
For sure.
She's got these stripped back, introspective ballads, and then she'll surprise you with a song
Right.
that's full of driving sense
Totally.
and almost has a danceable vibe.
Yeah.
It keeps you on your toes.
Keeps you guessing.
Totally.
What's really striking is how she maintains that honesty and vulnerability in her songwriting.
Right.
Even when she's experimenting
Yeah.
with different sounds. You get the sense she's not afraid
Right.
to be brutally honest
Uh-huh.
about her flaws and insecurities,
It's so refreshing.
which is refreshing, to say the least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's that line where she talks about writing from the perspective
Oh, yeah.
of the villain
Right.
in relationships.
It's so insightful.
I think that's incredibly insightful.
Yeah.
Most pop songs
I know.
tend to shy away from that kind of self-critique,
They want to keep it light.
but she embraces it.
She does.
And it makes her music
Yeah.
so much more relatable.
so much more real. It's almost like she's inviting us into
Yeah.
her own internal struggles. And that rawness adds to her mystique.
Right.
You see this complexity,
Right.
this willingness to be vulnerable. And it makes us want to understand her better.
Yeah. And it's also interesting to consider her admiration for Phoebe Bridgers.
Yeah.
Both of them seem to represent this shift
Right.
in the music industry where artists are prioritizing individual expression over chasing mainstream trends.
Yeah.
And it feels like
It's a new wave
Yeah.
of indie artists
Okay.
who are reclaiming the power of authenticity.
And I think it ties back to what we were saying about Bowie. Both he and Humberstone, by being from very different eras,
Totally.
share this unwavering commitment
Mm-hmm.
to their artistic vision.
Yeah.
It's that indie spirit,
That's it.
that refusal to compromise
Mhm.
that makes their Enigma all the more compelling. There's a connection between artists' level of fame
Interesting.
and their ability to maintain that enigmatic quality.
Mm-hmm.
Can you be a global superstar
That's the question.
and still be enigmatic?
It's a tough one. I think it's definitely more challenging.
Yeah.
The more famous you become,
Right.
the more scrutiny you're under. Every move is analyzed.
Yeah.
Every word is dissected.
Totally.
It becomes harder to keep any part of yourself hidden,
Yeah.
which is essential for maintaining that air of mystery.
But Bowie managed to do it
To a certain extent.
to a certain extent. Yeah.
Even at the height of his fame,
Right.
he always had
Yeah.
this aura of the unexpected.
Yeah. He was a master at controlling his image and using the media to his advantage, which makes me appreciate
Right.
what Holly Humberstone is doing even more.
Yeah.
It's like she's deliberately choosing to stay
Yeah.
somewhat under the radar, even as her music is gaining more recognition.
Right.
It's almost as if she understands
I think so.
that being too accessible can diminish
Yeah.
that sense of mystery.
It can. It's a fascinating paradox, isn't it? In today's world of social media and constant self-promotion.
Yeah, you got to put yourself out there.
You have to. It seems counterintuitive to want to hold something back.
Yeah.
But maybe that's what makes it even more intriguing.
Okay.
It goes against the grain. And that in itself can be a powerful statement.
So we've talked about these two artists,
Right.
David Bowie and Holly Humberstone, both of whom embody this quality of enigma. But I'm curious, what does it actually mean for someone to be enigmatic? Is it just about being mysterious?
Well, I think it goes deeper than that. I think it's about having a depth that invites exploration,
Okay.
a complexity that can't be easily summed up. It's about leaving space for the audience to fill in the blanks, to project their own interpretations onto the artist.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's not about
Right.
being intentionally vague or aloof.
Right.
It's about encouraging people to think for themselves and draw their own conclusions.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why Enigma is so closely tied to the indie spirit. You know, independent artists, by their very nature, are often operating outside of the mainstream, creating art that challenges conventions and defies easy categorization.
So that sense of mystery becomes almost a natural byproduct of their creative process. Yeah. They're not trying to fit into a mold.
Right.
Or please everyone.
Yeah. No, they're following their own vision.
Right.
And that can be incredibly alluring.
It is.
And think about it from the listener's perspective.
Okay.
It's so much more rewarding to engage with an artist who makes you think.
Yeah.
Who challenges your assumptions, who keeps you guessing. There's a sense of discovery, of constantly learning something new that you don't always get with more straightforward artists.
Yeah, but they're giving you a puzzle to solve.
A puzzle.
Yeah. And the more pieces you find, the more intriguing the image becomes.
It does.
Right? But there's always a sense that there are more pieces out there waiting to be discovered.
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
It keeps you coming back for more.
Yeah.
It sparks that curiosity, that desire to dig deeper and unravel the mystery.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Enigma, keep questioning.
And keep the enigma alive.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.